Is enough being done to keep the legacy of the fallen liberation struggle heroes alive? What key role did Joe Slovo play during negotiations for a democratic dispensation? And what did the current SACP leadership learn from the likes of Joe Slovo and Chris Hani? And what does the ANC's 104th anniversary mean to the tripartite alliance? What time is it? It is question time. Welcome to Question Time. My name is Mpho Tsedu. Today marks 21 years after the death of struggle stalwart and SACP leader Joe Slovo. Born in Lithuania in 1926, he moved to South Africa with his parents at the age of 9. And due to his SACP activities starting in the 1940s, he was banned from attending all gatherings under the Suppression of Communism Act from 1954. His 1956 treason charges were dropped after he went into exile in 1963, only returning to the country in 1990. Joe Slovo is commended for his commitment to the struggle for South Africa's freedom. This included his sunset clause proposal, which helped pave the way for the government of national unity. At the time of his passing on in 1995, Slovo was the country's first democratic cabinet minister of housing. A reminder that we are live, and therefore you can call us and air your views on the matter. The number to dial 089 110 4210 089 110 4210. You can also tweet us. Our Twitter handle at QuestionTime24. My guest today, Dr. Blade Nzimande, is this General Secretary of the South African Communist Party, and he joins us today here on Question Time. Cheers, thank you very much for making time. We've been looking for you for quite some time, and we really appreciate you making time. We've got a hashtag going there, hashtag Ask Blade. So we'll be taking those questions as well from our Twitter handle. You can also follow me there on Twitter at Mpho Tsedu, at QuestionTime24. Ask Blade, hashtag Ask Blade. Now Blade is with me. Cheers. Indeed, we appreciate your time. Let's talk about Slovo. 21 years on. It feels like yesterday.
Yeah, firstly, thanks for the invitation, Mpho, and a happy new year to you and all the members of the team in the studio.
Thank you very much.
Hope that you'll have an even better 2016.
Yeah.
Yes, it sounds like a long time, but also at the same time like yesterday. I was talking to someone outside who works here at the SABC and says she still remembers vividly the mud when we went to bury Comrade Joe Slovo some 21 years back. But of course for us, we would like that no matter how far back the incident happened, that South Africa should never forget people like Joe Slovo for the role that they played in bringing about the kind of South Africa that we have now. A free and a democratic South Africa with its enormous challenges, but also we're a country that has made a lot of progress on a number of fronts to try and create better conditions, especially for the majority of the people of our country.
One thing that stands out when we talk of Joe Slovo, and particularly his funeral, everybody remembers his coffin. That it was just an ordinary coffin which probably didn't cost even 500 rands at the time. But not about the coffin do they talk, but what it symbolized. That this was a real leader of the people who was not into your frills and, you know, extraordinary luxuries, you know, but somebody who understood that the people that I'm leading are poor. Is there a Joe Slovo in the current crop of the SACP?
There are many. I would say there are many. Because the example we are setting about the coffin is precisely was representing what Slovo lived as. And also a true communist fighting for ordinary people and to serve the country, and even be prepared to die for the country, you know, during very dangerous times. I am convinced, I see many of them, Joe Slovos today in the SACP, What also is very good is that we're a very young party. In fact, all our other sister communist parties in the rest of the world, we meet, by the way, every year. All the communist parties will still gather. They say that the one advantage you have is that you have got youth after you, which is a huge advantage in the sense that it means we have got a communist party that has got a future. Of course, it won't happen automatically that we have Joe Slovos, you know. That's why, as the Communist Party, we have campaigns. Campaigns on land, campaigns to transform the financial sector, campaign on social grants and social development. The many campaigns that we've waged, as well as political education, because a good communist is one who is both trained in theoretical understanding, but also not just end up with theory, but also be practical. Be involved in campaigning, working with the people, doing work with the working class. We do a lot of work with COSATU in particular and its affiliates, including joint political schools. So those are the things we are trying to do to ensure that indeed we do recreate Joe Slovos. Also, one thing I may mention is that we have a Young Communist League, which, by the way, was formed in 1922. A year after the formation of the South African Communist Party, but was banned together with the SACP in 1950 under the Suppression of Communism Act. We rebuilt it only in 2003, some 13 years after our unbanning, because we are trying to say, let's catch them young.
Okay. I was talking to some MK combatants who were saying, you know, when he came to the camps in Angola, they were very suspicious that OR is bringing a Mlungu and our struggle is against, you know, white people back at home. But yes, I've just received a message that there's an important announcement that has to be made right now. We're just going to interrupt our interview by Hashim Amla, who is about to announce his retirement from South African cricket. Let's just cross there right away.
Started with a very difficult period, faced similar challenges, but ended up to be one of the best test captains that clearly South Africa ever had, if not the world had seen. Hashim entered the role at a time when we lost some very, very capable players. He stepped up. He was very willing to assume the leadership role. We're fortunate in that we've got other players in the team as well that supported us in leadership roles. So I want to take this opportunity, Hashim, to thank you most sincerely for having assisted in rebuilding a squad that had lost senior players, that had lost opening batsmen, that had lost some opening bowlers through injury, and it was not an easy ride. You fought hard. I think there was no better testament to what we saw when you scored the double 100 in the first innings, when it needed you to step in and step up as the leader of the team. And I've no doubt that on behalf of the coach, the rest of your team players, the management, and the cricket board of South Africa, to thank you for the role that you played. We've asked A.B. de Villiers to step in. He is the vice captain. He will see the series through. We know what A.B. is, an experienced leader in his own right, and we're comfortable that through the next 2 test matches, A.B. will lead and look to turn around the series so that we're still in with a chance to walk away with some glory. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Henry. We'll just open it up for questions for the entire top table.
Actually, many will wonder why you led by example. It looks like you turned things around. It was a good team performance. Why have you decided to do it on the back of a strong performance like that?
Well, the decision was not made over the last couple of days. The decision was made at least 2 weeks ago. Certainly after giving it a lot of thought. I mean, as I said earlier, captaining your country, probably the pinnacle of anybody's ambition. So why I did it now, it just so happened I got 200, and I'm glad that I managed to get some runs on the board. And it fitted nicely that the South African team did exceptionally well on the last day. So it just so happened, as I said, that it happened today. It was coming for the last 2 weeks. So that's it.
Are you worried it will be?
Okay, that's Hashim Amla there announcing his retirement from cricket. Indeed, a loss. However, for more of this, join our channel. Will be taking the story later in the bulletin and the sports program as well. So you'll get the rest of the information regarding this man's announcement later. Then, but yes, let's continue with politics, not of sport, but of a different nature. Like I was saying, combatants of MK are saying, here is OR. And remember, by then, I mean, we're talking about the June 16 detachment. You know, people were schooled in the black consciousness, SASM and SASO, BPC politics at the time, who to them, you know, a white person was an enemy. But here is OR bringing him to an MK camp, and the man managed to endear himself in the hearts and minds of young MK radicals.
Well, first, let's start here. You know, I mean, I'm not surprised that many of our cadres, you know, would react in that way. But also, we must remember that Comrade Slovo was a founder member of the Congress of Democrats, which was a white organization backing the national liberation struggle of the majority of the people. He was in the treason trial, as your background was actually saying, but also most importantly, he was a co-founder of Mpho Tsedu.
Yes.
MK, by the way, was founded jointly by the ANC and the SACP.
Yes.
And the ANC assigned Comrade Mandela to be the commander-in-chief, and the SACP assigned Comrade Joe Slovo that they must actually start on this project. So he was very much deep. Of course, it's not surprising because we had a system of white minority rule, and there weren't many white people who were on the side of the liberation struggle.
Correct.
And it would have been very unusual to actually find a white person at that level for many young people, you know, those who left the country and so on. As a matter of fact, there is a story I was told by the former Minister of Transport, Usbu Ndebele, when he was being tortured in prison, you know. So he would be tortured by this white policeman and then leave him and then bring a black guy to try and say,
soften
him, you know, and so on. But this black guy was very curious. Have you met Slovo? You know, Konjo Slovo Vagaban. Wanting Itagazelo, you know, because they thought Utu Slovo was black. It couldn't be a white person. But that signals the achievement of our liberation struggle in terms of entrenching non-racialism, because also those comrades themselves converted to actually say there is nothing inherently reactionary in a white person.
Sure.
And not least, by the way, we must also acknowledge that the SACP was the first non-racial political party. So those are the things that we need to be valuing, especially more this time, you know, that they should not just be inside our organizations, but generally in society. Slovo, what Slovo symbolizes today is the necessity to continue the struggle to bring about a truly non-racial society.
This anniversary comes at a time when there's you know, the majority of people called monkeys by some members of, you know, the South African community.
Of course, that must be strongly condemned. Incidentally, at last year's function commemorating Joe Slovo, we as the SACP called for the internet-based papers to actually deal with the racist commentary that is in following news stories. I'm sure you look at that, you go to the internet, you get some horrific, you know, racial and hate speech there. We raised it last year. It's interesting that, and we called for the Human Rights Commission to investigate because we said we are allowing racism to actually flourish. So it's coincidental, yes, that at that time, as we are actually commemorating someone like Joe Slovo, we were then getting this resurgence, unfortunately, of these terrible racial pronouncements that must be strongly condemned. But what it underlines is the necessity to continue the struggle, as I say, for non-racialism. But we won't win the struggle for non-racialism as far as we are concerned as this Communist Party unless it's accompanied by the struggle to transform the economy. Because the two things, especially for us, capitalism, those are the twins, terrible twins, racism and capitalism. They tend to feed on each other, and you find that the foundation actually is an unequal society.
Okay, Paul, you're calling us from Midrand. Welcome. Hello, Paul. Paul. Okay, we seem to have a problem with Paul there. The number to dial though is 089-110-4210, and let's check how Ask Blade, #AskBlade is doing. Olwe Tusipuga says the SACP of Chris Hani is not the same as that of Blade. Has he killed the party? #AskBlade. And #AskBlade Paco Konkhobe Senior says, when will SACP gain a spine to stand on its own feet, seeing that ANC is counter what they stand for? Okay. Fana Maisela says, what can we expect from the SACP in 2016 in terms of the mobilization of the party? And perhaps we can take the last one there for now. Cornelius Mushani says, Mpho, ask Blade if he's still a communist or a capitalist. Ask him not to play double standards. Okay, yes, you had them.
Look, the issue of whether we are still the party of Chris Hani or not, yes and no. Yes, we are still the party of Chris Hani because we are still pursuing the ideals that they stood for. The national liberation of our people, a task that is not complete, and to us, that's our most direct route for a socialist South Africa. We are still committed to that. No, because this is post-1994. We can't be operating as if we're some party that has been in the museum, you know, because we are dealing with different things. There are elections now. We are participating in elections in support of the African National Congress. We are now freer to campaign than it was during the period of the underground. And we continue, by the way, to debate our own road, whether we should still be strengthening the alliance or we should consider going it alone. Our own judgment call at the moment is that it's still premature to split the alliance because you run the risk of undoing the gains that we have made. And we mustn't take those gains for granted, you know. We must always nurture and protect them. I still believe I'm a communist. I'm not a capitalist. Okay. I've had my own mistakes that I've made, but I'm still a committed communist.
Okay. Castro, you're in Pretoria.
Yes, sir.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, my concern here is about Slovo's history as a military man. That it has not been well captured, especially the fact that whatever MK did during the years of the armed struggle was driven by Slovo's book, No Middle Road, which actually guided us as MK cadres in terms of the armed struggle. We need to acknowledge people like Slovo in terms of giving them honorary doctorates, for instance, in military science, and even acknowledging them as generals, like with people like Chris Hani and them.
Okay.
And this is not being done. So this is what we actually need to also to make sure that our military history is enriched by our MK history. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Quite a thought there, Jess.
Castro is absolutely right. If we were to be self-critical, myself included, I don't think that as a movement and as a government we've done enough to actually tell the story of our own struggle. We do need to actually do something. Under President Mbeki, there was an attempt to have what were called South African Democratic, I can't remember, SADC, but which was an attempt to capture our own history. You go to exclusive books today, you know, you hardly ever find books written by black people about the national liberation struggle, about all sorts of things. We need to honor. That is why now there is even an attempt by parties like the DA to say, no, history must not be taught at schools because it will be ANC history. Because they are uncomfortable about it. It's going to actually tell the truth. I really do agree with Castro. But it's my own gripe. As the SACP, we haven't had enough resources. But we believe that as government, we have really not done enough there in terms of telling our own history. Okay. Romano, you are in the East Rand. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Paul. Congratulations for the new year.
Thank you very much.
Paul, I think that the country is in this mess today because of Joe Slovo. When he came up with the so-called sunset clause, you must understand after sunrise, sunset comes. Because there was already a sunset clause when the people were oppressed. So instead of coming up with something tangible. That's why we are in this mess today. And I think that Blake himself, he is confused because globally, communism and capitalism oppose each other as an ideology. So he cannot claim that he's a communist. That's why Sobukwe said from the onset in South Africa, there are no communists, there are quacks. I thank you, Mpho.
Thank you very much, Romano. Yes?
Well, unfortunately, we people can judge us by what we do, you know. But we disagree with Pan-Africanism. There's a Pan-Africanist position. We can debate, you know, that Romano
is that what caused the formation of the PIC?
Yeah, partly that's why they are dead, you know, also because really their ideas have never really found root amongst our people. Look, this thing of criticizing Slovo about sunset clauses, he proposed that, but that was subjected to enormous debate. I remember I was one of those who participated in the debate and disagreeing and say we can't have the sunset clauses. But it was debated, taken through the NEC of the ANC, the Central Committee of the Communist Party in COSATU and so on, until we agreed that this possibly is one way through which we can break the stalemate in negotiations in order to achieve our goals to ascend to power. I would recommend to Romano that he possibly needs to do a bit of reading around what are referred to as negotiated settlements, because negotiated settlements are different from a march. If we had marched with our AK-47 to the Union buildings, we could have built a different society. But negotiated settlement, what determines a negotiated settlement is that there are two parties that can't defeat each other, and they get forced because of circumstances to come to a kind of an understanding. And that is what, and our own acceptance was on condition that we will use that breakthrough of sunset clauses then to lay a basis to pursue our revolution. It must not just end on compromises, but as a platform to be able to move forward.
Eunice, welcome.
Waiting for compliments of the new season and Mr. Blake that side.
Yes.
Let me just be short. Mr. Blake, these people, these my brothers, they went outside saying the snake is biting in the country. They got training, but when they came back, I know there's more to be done. We're supporting them, and I'm speaking from a Christian perspective, because from the Christian side, we just support anyone who wants justice. But what I've seen also that's lacking is in the workplaces where there have been intensified oppression, there aren't strategies as yet that we see in the private sector to monitor if the children are safe or are not safe, and if not safe, what? There's more oppression. Thanks, Mpho.
Thank you very much. Yes.
I'm not sure whether I fully understood Eunice's
transformation in the private sector.
Yes, that is very important. That transformation must be pursued at all levels. What unites us as an alliance at the moment? Well, one of the things is that we need to drive a second, more radical phase of our transition. We have made lots of progress, but our economy still remains very much colonial. Still a mining economy. Largely, we need to be building a manufacturing economy that's more of a modern economy, where we are able to build more factories, create jobs here in South Africa, and so on. That is very crucial.
You're saying you've made your mistakes. What are those?
Well, the mistake was my BMW car, for instance. I shouldn't have bought that car. Had I known, had I had experience in government, I wouldn't have. I take the responsibility. I was advised, these are the cars you are supposed to buy. I should have asked a bit more because I was uncomfortable. I was hoping I would be driving the same car that I was driving when I was in the Communist Party. I apologize. Those are mistakes that sometimes you make, but it does not change our commitment as the South African Communist Party to a socialist order, which should be a better society than this barbarism of capitalism, as we call it.
So is the party still red?
It is still red. Very much so, even if some have tried to steal our colors. We were never worn red colors before. They shall remain unnamed, but the red color still is us and represents the blood of the working class.
Okay. That was question time for today. A big thank you to my guests and to you for watching the show. From me and the crew, you have yourself a wonderful time. Goodbye.
is important for everyone to know food safety practices and make sure that their food is prepared safely from farm to the plate.
Who ensures that there's compliance?
In terms of all the abattoirs, they have to be registered. So when they are being registered, they are actually audited fully to make sure that the structural requirements as well as the hygiene requirements are met.
Most bacteria and viruses cannot withstand the normal cooking temperatures that we use to cook our food.
The bigger retailers cannot be seen as being insensitive to the food safety requirements.
There are many consumers that actually go shopping with a cooler box and ice packs so that they don't break the cold chain, because a few hours outside the temperature that it should be already shortens the shelf life of that product.
Join me on Health Talk every Saturday morning between 9